Workers say they plan to retire at 65. Retirees report they actually stopped at 62. That 3-year gap is not a rounding error, and for Gen X heading into the next decade, it may be the difference between choosing your exit and having it chosen for you. Quick note before we dig in, this is general education for Gen X viewers thinking through their options, not personalized advice for your specific situation. If you are a Gen Xer in your 50s with a plan that ends at 67, the data quietly stacking up against that plan is the whole reason this video exists. Stick with me, because the most surprising piece is not the timing problem. It is what your retirement actually costs once you get there. And that number is probably not the number in your head. Let me show you what the gap between plan and reality actually looks like. According to the Retirement Confidence Study, the median age people actually retire is 62, not 65 and certainly not 67. And here's the part most people do not see coming. A TIAA study found that 30% of recent retirees left the workforce because of a health problem. The Retirement Confidence Survey found another 26% left because of company changes, downsizing, restructuring, layoffs. Add those together and you are looking at a majority of early retirees who did not pick the date. The date picked them. Now think about what that means for the average Gen X household financially. The National Institute on Retirement Security reported that the typical Gen X household had about $40,000 saved for retirement. A more recent June 2025 report from the Trans-America Center for Retirement Studies put the median for Gen X workers closer to $107,000 in total household retirement accounts. Either way, you are nowhere near the 7-figure number the financial industry keeps quoting. And 41% of Gen X told Natixis investment managers in 2024 that it would take a miracle to retire securely. That is not pessimism. That is people running their own math and getting a hard answer. You might be thinking, our generation has just been unlucky, and the data backs that up. The Pew Research Center found Gen X households lost 38% of their median net worth between 2007 and 2010. That is a steeper drop than any other generation suffered in the housing crash. So when you feel behind, you are not imagining it. You started this race carrying weight nobody else was asked to carry. So the first piece is timing. The second piece is your body. And this is where the conversation gets uncomfortable. We grew up assuming our parents had 15 or 20 healthy years after retirement, and that we would inherit the same runway. The data says we should not assume that. A 2024 study actually found baby boomers were more likely to have chronic conditions, like cancer, lung disease, and heart problems in their 50s and 60s compared to previous generations. The healthy retirement runway we pictured was already shortening for the generation in front of us, and it is not getting better for Gen X. A 2016 study found the stroke rate for Gen X more than doubled in the preceding 20 years. Younger generations report higher stress levels and are more affected by what researchers call deaths of despair. Picture this for a second. You are 56. You have told yourself 11 more years of grinding. 11 more years of stress, sleep debt, skipped checkups, and pushing through. Then you retire at 67 and the doctor sits you down with a diagnosis that has been brewing the whole time you were working through it. The years you saved up for were the years your body was quietly spending. That is the trade most people do not realize they are making. The third pressure makes both of those worse. If you are a Gen X parent right now, there is a good chance you are also a Gen X caregiver. Pew Research has identified Gen X as the cohort most likely to be in the sandwich generation, caring for a parent over 65 while still raising or financially supporting a child. The numbers are heavier than people realize. A 2019 study found sandwich generation caregivers spend an average of 22 hours a week on caregiving, which works out to 1,144 hours every year. That is the equivalent of more than half a full-time job on top of your actual full-time job. 2020 data showed 52% of the 53 million U.S. family caregivers were Gen X or millennials. Now layer the cost on top. Experian and Edmunds put the average new vehicle monthly payment in the fourth quarter of 2025 at $767 to $772. That is roughly $9,000 a year just on a car, while you are also paying a mortgage, helping a kid with college or rent, and possibly co-paying for a parent's care. You might be thinking, well, I will just push through it and retire harder on the back end. The body and the bandwidth do not actually allow that. This is the slow leak that drains your savings rate, your sleep, and your health window all at the same time. And most retirement calculators do not have a column for it. So we have a timing problem, a health problem, and a caregiving problem all hitting Gen X at once. Now here is the piece that flips the whole conversation. The big retirement number in your head, the $1.1 or $1.4 million, that feels like a finish line, is being calculated against the wrong life. It is calculated against your life right now, with the mortgage, the commute, the work wardrobe, and the kids. Your retirement life looks different. Federal Reserve consumer spending data is direct on this. Average annual housing expenditures dropped from $18,006 for the 55 to 64 age group, down to $15,838 for the 65 to 74 group. That is more than $2,000 a year that just disappears as people age, mostly from mortgages getting paid off and homes getting smaller. Work-related costs disappear too. The commuting, the meals out, the wardrobe, the second car. Researchers found that retirees earning anywhere between 60 and 80% of their previous income reported almost the same level of satisfaction. Picture that. The finish line you have been sprinting toward at 100% of your current income may sit 20 to 40% closer than the calculator told you. You might be thinking, but what about everyone retiring with very little? Are they all suffering? The Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances tells a more nuanced story. Median household net worth for the 55 to 64 group is $364,600. For the 65 to 74 group, it climbs to $410,000. For 75 and older, it settles at $335,500. These are not seven-figure numbers, and yet most of these households are functioning, paying their bills, and not in crisis. The June 2025 average monthly Social Security retirement benefit was $2,005.05, or roughly $24,000 a year of inflation-adjusted government-backed income that the calculators sometimes treat as an afterthought. Only 3.2% of retirees have $1 million or more saved, according to Federal Reserve data, and almost 80% of Americans have less than $100,000 saved. Most retirees are not in the elite tier, and most retirees are still figuring it out. That is not me telling you to relax, it is me telling you the cliff is not where the finance industry painted it. Now here is the part that has changed for our generation specifically, and why the bridge model is not a luxury option. As of 2026, only 14% of Gen X has access to a traditional pension. 14%. Think about that for a second. The rest of us are running on defined contribution plans, Social Security, and whatever home equity we have built. Our parents had a stool with 3 legs. Most of us are working with 2, and one of them is wobbling. So when I talk about a bridge, part-time consulting, freelance work, one spouse retiring before the other, or a passion project that brings in even modest income, that is not a fringe idea or a backup plan. For the 86% of Gen X without a pension, that flexibility is the actual retirement architecture available. Your situation will differ, so this is a starting point, not a plan. I want to be honest about where this gets harder. For some Gen Xers, retirement will not be a graceful transition into part-time work. A health crisis or a layoff at 58 may force a complete stop with no warning. If your job is physically demanding, or your industry is being restructured around you, the bridge model is not a calm choice you make in advance, it becomes a scramble. That is exactly why thinking about this at 53 instead of 59 matters. The bridge is easier to build before you need it. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but what about the legitimate financial concerns with stepping back earlier? They are real, and any honest video has to name them. People are living longer, and healthcare costs in retirement are unpredictable. Every year you retire earlier is a year of compounding you do not get back. And taking Social Security at 62 gives you about 70% of what you would receive at full retirement age. For someone with a full retirement age of 66, delaying benefits to 70 meant a 132% benefit. That is real money you are leaving on the table by claiming early. So how does the bridge model actually handle those? It handles them by not asking you to retire fully at 55. Part-time consulting income at 55 through 62 lets you delay claiming Social Security, lets your retirement accounts keep compounding for several more years, and lets you cover health insurance through earned income channels until Medicare kicks in at 65. You are not picking between 67 or broke. You are picking a sequence that protects your health window, reduces the caregiving stress, and still respects the longevity math. There is no risk-free version of this. There is only the version that ignores the risks and the version that accounts for them honestly. The values reframe at the heart of this is simple. You have spent decades measuring success by whether you hit a number. The better question is whether you are using the time you have left in a way that reflects what you actually value. Are you the Gen Xer who is going to spend the next 13 years grinding toward a number? That may not be the right number while your health window quietly closes, and your parents need more from you every year? Or are you the one who builds a bridge, a slower, more flexible, still financially responsible transition that gives you back some of the time the standard plan was going to spend for you? This is general education, not personalized advice. Before you make any change to your retirement timing, talk to a financial advisor or a CPA who knows your full situation, your tax picture, your spouse's, your healthcare options, your debt structure. They will catch the wrinkles a single video cannot. Drop your current age in the comments and one honest sentence about whether your retirement plan still feels realistic. I read everyone and I appreciate you sharing your stories. If this changed how you are thinking about that plan, hit subscribe. I do these conversations every week, the kind nobody else seems willing to have honestly about Gen X money and life. And before you go, here is the question that follows this one naturally. We have been talking about whether the seven-figure target is even the right target. The next video pulls the curtain back on what US retirees actually have saved, not the headline numbers the finance industry sells you, but the real Federal Reserve data on what real households are working with. If you have been measuring yourself against a goalpost that may not be where you think it is, that is the conversation to watch next.